There is no need to parse words. Losing is always disappointing, but a couple things off the top here. Number one, yeah, this was a game that could have put the one seed in the AFC pretty much out of reach for anybody else had the Chiefs just taken care of business the rest of the way. But that might have been a bad thing because you get dull in those situations. How often do you see a team that takes the final week of the regular season off because there's nothing ventured, nothing gained by playing it, and then they come out flat in their first playoff game? Now, the other thing is, I think we were all sort of bracing for a loss somewhere along the way. I will touch on this a little bit, kind of with the final point in this video, but I don't think anyone really expected the Kansas City Chiefs to go undefeated. So if you're going to lose a game, losing a game to the Buffalo Bills is not particularly upsetting, not particularly disappointing, does not particularly mean bad things coming to your football team, not in the same way that it did losing to the Raiders on Christmas Day last year. But I think even for the fan base, I think this was healthy. It's been almost a year since we've made Dower videos. It's been almost a year since we have had even a loss to talk about as, well, mainstream media, though there's not a whole lot of mainstream media that is decidedly Kansas City Chiefs, except for Nick Wright, or as I like to refer to him, Menthol Jesus. But I think that there is a lot of homegrown sort of content here on YouTube, and we haven't had to talk about a loss, right? So this is maybe getting us back in a little bit of creator shape. But there was an article from Bleacher Report, pardon me, titled NFL Week 11 Takeaways, Bills Knock Off Chiefs, Steelers Get Statement Win, and more. Golly, I don't know where they come from. And the blurb on the Kansas City Chiefs read as such. Chiefs could be a more dangerous team without weight of perfection on them. I agree with that, and I'll get to why afterwards. In Week 11, the Kansas City Chiefs tasted defeat for the first time this season. Patrick Mahomes didn't have the magic to overcome a late deficit and lead his team to a miraculous victory. Chasing history to become the first NFL team to three-peat as champions, the Chiefs are far beyond moral losses. But they no longer need to think about perfection. Kansas City just needs to make the postseason. At 9-1, Kansas City will play meaningful games in January. But the Chiefs have already proven that they don't need home field advantage to win the Super Bowl. Last year, Kansas City went into the postseason as the number 3 seed, winning on the road against the Buffalo Bills and Baltimore Ravens before beating the San Francisco 49ers for consecutive title wins. Looking forward, the Chiefs should consider resting players or limiting their workloads in preparation for the long haul and a run at another Lombardi trophy. I believe I will have a video tomorrow, which is a response video to the video the guys at All Chiefed Up made today, as well as a response to an article from Arrowhead Pride, because we saw, and the guys at All Chiefed Up, if you're not subscribed over there, you should be. They do way better work than I do. They were really making some observations about the game plan, and I think we actually have the structural data, if you will, to be able to comment a little bit further on that. I think that there were some compelling things going on, some interesting things, maybe not compelling, but some interesting things going on with choices that were made in that Bills game. And I don't know if I can explain them. I can absolutely explain them. I don't know if I can explain them in a way that makes any sense because they are not in terms that we normally use to describe football. The only real way that I can explain some of the things that happened in that Bills game are through boxing. And guys, that's one of the points I have for this video here as well. And that kind of falls into this number 4 here. But the only real terms that I can think of to explain some of the decisions that were made in that Buffalo Bills game, maybe I'll go ahead and spoil the plot here. They were feeling out the Bills. That's the only explanation I can come up with for why DeAndre Hopkins played fewer snaps than both Xavier Worthy and Justin Watson. Why Juju Smith-Schuster played, essentially coming back from injury, the same amount of reps as DeAndre Hopkins. And there are several. Uche played 4 snaps, for example, in a game where the Kansas City Chiefs were getting absolutely zero pass rush. So one of the principles that goes into boxing is the first, depending on how deep your gas tank goes, right? So Conor McGregor, for example, in UFC, not boxing, but similar principles, would go out there and feel out his opponent for about 30 seconds. Conor McGregor notoriously gassed out. Other boxers, so for example, Tyson Fury had a very long feeling out process. Why? Because he doesn't have to take the risks and feel you out immediately. He's got a gas tank. He's going to be there in the later rounds. He can just kind of figure out where you're at. He can feel your power and keep going. Guys, that's the only way I can explain, short of there are injuries that we don't know about. That's the only way I can explain some of the stuff that I think we saw during the Bills game. Anyway, the premise of this video is that the Kansas City Chiefs may be better off in some ways for having lost a game. Maybe not that game. I would have rather, I think, lost the Panthers game than the Bills game. But you got to win one. You got to lose one. You lost one, right? So one of the things that is interesting coming out of this game, and we might be better prepared for the playoffs, is this. You had to better look at your weaknesses. The pass rush is a weakness. Cornerback 2 continues to be a weakness. Offensive consistency continues to be a weakness. One thing I did not put there, I did not write down there, but obviously left tackle. Well, how does that help you? What does it matter? You're not going to go out and trade for a cornerback. The trade deadline has passed. You're not going to go out and sign an edge rusher or an offensive tackle that are going to immediately upgrade your roster in any meaningful fashion because there's just not those players on the street. No, obviously not. But you know a little bit better based on the teams that you will see in the playoffs, namely the Bills. Here's some things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to try to juice up the pass rush because Josh Allen did not feel the heat at all. You're going to have to figure out some way to give some help to Najee Johnson or replace him with Joshua Williams. You're going to have to keep someone appended to the line because your offensive tackles are struggling. You're going to have to go ahead and forsake all the pizzazz you want and run the stinking ball on first down. Kareem Hunt is going to fall forward and you're going to be ahead of the chains. You know those things now. You have the ability in the remaining 7 games on your roster to drill down and try to perfect them. To drill down and say, okay, yeah, well now we know we're going to run on first down. What are the plays that Kareem Hunt really likes? What are the ones that will work against the type of defensive front that we saw against the Bills? And now you have 7 games of blank canvas with which to paint that masterpiece heading into the postseason. The second thing that I think is a big win coming out of that game, the Worthy conundrum. It is a conundrum still. Worthy carried the offense for a big part of that game, basically 25% of that game. He also continues to have absolutely no idea where he is on the field and is unable to get 2 feet in bounds. if he gets that figured out by the time the playoffs are here, he will be an absolutely dangerous weapon for this offense in the postseason. One thing that is promising, look at the different types of routes that he caught. It wasn't just him going down the field and turning around and having the ball thrown to him. No, in fact, the one time he did that was an incompletion because he could not stay within the field of play. But what we are seeing from Xavier Worthy, and I think, in my opinion, what we saw from Xavier Worthy against the Bills, more so than at any point during the season, is growth. We saw him take a couple big hits, get up, and keep on ticking. We saw him fail on that reception, was disappointed, came back in the game. We saw him take a handoff and really stretch the edge, testing his own speed, winning out, and knowing that is an option in the NFL. We saw him with a drag route across the middle that ended up extending the field of play in a fashion that behooves a player like Xavier Worthy. If he knows that he can do those things, it will be better for him in the playoffs. The number 3 thing here, there is no secret that the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills are planning to see each other again this year. Technically, probably next year. Sure, they lost this game. Yes, they would have preferred to win this game, but now they know their opponent better. So there's a principle in Stoic philosophy. Sometimes you have the money to eat well. Sometimes you are financially well in life. Sometimes, during those times, you should make things artificially difficult. Now, I'm not saying the Kansas City Chiefs lost on purpose, not at all. I'm not making that claim. I never would. But I do think that this season getting more difficult, even if it's in almost a superficial way, in that you have lost a tiebreaker to the Buffalo Bills, which may never come around, you constantly have that thing in the back of your mind saying that things are a little bit more difficult than you had wanted, than you had planned, than you probably could have had. The Chiefs, we'll get into this in the next point, but the Chiefs could have won this game. They did not. It is now in the back of their mind that they are at fault for they are at potential fault, I guess I should say, for the way the rest of their season will go. The next thing on that same point, however, it is possible, maybe not likely, especially with the way that things have gone for the Kansas City Chiefs so far this season, it is possible that the Chiefs, as well as the Bills, are healthier the next time they play each other. Both of these teams are having injury difficulties right now. The Kansas City Chiefs are having injury difficulties on a season-long basis. It's possible both of these teams see each other in the playoffs as stronger versions of themselves. An interesting thing to think about. The penultimate item on this list. The final score was a 2-possession win for the Buffalo Bills, but it was not your classic 2-possession NFL win. This was not a dominant thrubbing. Maybe at times it felt that way, but at times it certainly did not. If the Chiefs were to get one stop late, you know the one with Josh Allen. Had they gotten that one stop, they'd have had the opportunity to win this game in regulation. So the confidence for this team does not have to suffer. This team knows, the Bills won. And rightfully so. They won that football game. But we could have. The Kansas City Chiefs know that, yes, the Buffalo Bills won that day. But it might have been that they didn't. And it might have been that had the Kansas City Chiefs made just a couple more plays, over the course of 60 minutes of football, and things would have been better. A couple plays, I believe both teams ran 70 offensive plays. So a couple of plays over the course of 140-ish snaps, and this team could have won. The final thing here to talk about, and this is touched on a little bit in the article itself, the distraction is removed. There is no perfection sitting out there. There is no shiny little idea sitting out there on the horizon that, we could take the time to develop Xavier Worthy, but man, we really need to get this win. We really need to just kind of hunker down and try to kill the clock here in week 13 against the San Jose Yo-Yos, because we really need to get this win. It's all about the win at this point. It's not all about the win until the playoffs. Andy Reid knows that. Patrick Mahomes knows that. So here's the thing, and this is going to be part of the video tomorrow, that if I make this the video, you try to win every game. That's true for 32 teams in football. You put everything on the line every week in order to win the game. That's true for probably 31 teams in football. If that weren't the case, if that were not the case, why would the Buffalo Bills be with Josh Allen 3-1 against the Kansas City Chiefs in the regular season, but 0-3 in the postseason? You have to find some way to explain that. It's because everyone in the NFL is putting everything on the line every week, except for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Kansas City Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.